I keep seeing a continuous misunderstanding over what's happening. You know, you keep hearing the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. And while that's true to some extent, people are completely misidentifying the cause of that. And a big problem is in 2012, the United States took a look around at a few other countries who were handling their debt by setting targets for inflation higher than 0%. And so they're able to shrink their debt by devaluing it. And that is exactly what they did in 2012. They set a target rate of 2%, which may not seem like much in 1 year, but if you really think about it, it both accrues and compounds year over year. So you would lose 2% valuation the first year. By the second year, you're going to be losing 4% valuation plus times 2% of that. And it will keep compounding over and over until you reach 10 years where you're going to pay an absolute minimum of 21.8%. Now, in reality, it goes even higher than that because there's other causes for inflation besides setting interest rates to actually trigger it. And so I think the number was somewhere around 24 to 25% in the last 10 years. So you've basically lost a quarter of your valuation in a decade because their reckless deficit spending requires them to find sources of money or to mitigate the interest payments that they're making. So everything that you're making is ending up in the pockets of people who own various securities like T-bills, bonds, tips, and a handful of other securities that are all creditors of the United States, most of them domestic. They live here. But they'll buy this stuff up from the Treasury, and then they're protected against the inflation. You're not. If you're dealing with cash and you're working paycheck to paycheck, your wages are not going to keep up with what they're doing. And then you take that and you also count in the fact that if you go to the top tier of the middle class, you're looking at about 45% in all combined taxes. So sales tax, income tax, Social Security, all that good stuff. You add it all up and it's close to about 45%. So they're taking almost half your money if you're in that tier, less than half if you're below it, and then they're devaluing what you have left. And they're siphoning off your money so that it lands in the hands of people who hold the securities. And then, of course, you've got some natural imbalances that happen as far as people who own capital and other appreciating assets. They're protected from this. You're not. So they are basically fueling the siphon from the bottom to the top, like they've been doing for quite some time. Now, the thing of it is, if you support Democrat policies, all right, what you're doing is saying, okay, keep doing what you're doing because we want you to spend more. We want the government to keep spinning up government programs. We want the government to pitch in and help people out who have been, underserved in this economy. And so you are contributing to the siphon because you're increasing public debt when you do that, and it's just going to continue working for people on the top. Contrast that to the conservative side where we want to reduce the debt and try to get to a point where we cut out all these expenditures and find alternative ways to increase revenue, try to provide tax breaks, and you can very clearly see the difference there. So reckless spending is what got us here. Reckless spending is why you're struggling to get ahead, why you can't go and pay for your groceries, why your power bill is outrageous. There are other factors at work, but losing 2% valuation year over year to the point where you either need a career that puts you ahead of the game each year by giving you significant raises that combat the inflation, or you have to buy appreciating assets and hold those and get the benefits from those. So you're never going to be able to get ahead working retail or any of the lower end jobs because your wages aren't going to keep up with that. You're on a slow slide. So you can blame your government for that. and all their reckless spending. It's to be fair, it's both parties. Like, we had a lot of wars that got us into this situation to begin with, and then at some point they realized, well, it looks like we can handle debt pretty well, so we'll use it for government programs too, and we'll just keep running. We'll keep running with it until our debt is $36 trillion and our interest won't even allow us to reach a balanced budget at this point. So even if you cut out all the discretionary spending and you used only entitlements and the very basic things that you need to run a government, you still couldn't balance the budget at this point, because the interest on the loans that are going out to all these securities, it's killing us. That's still putting us in the red. So they have to keep the inflation target because they can't balance the budget. But they're not using it to balance the budget. They continue the deficit spending. So the debt keeps getting larger. And they're going to keep needing more and more ways to rake you over the coals in order to keep supporting that.